The recent tragedy of children dying at schools has left communities and parents mourning and left with unanswered questions. Some of the recent cases include a 10-year-old grade 5 learner from Yamihle Primary School who was killed after a goalpost fell on him. In another incident, a grade R learner died after being trapped in a window in Freedom Park. The community is calling for the shutdown of Joy in Jabulo Daycare Center after a 2-month-old baby died last month. We're joined now by Mbatha, father of the baby, and as well as Tshepo Mantje, a children's rights activist and coordinator of Real Reform for ECD Movement. Gentlemen, thank you both for making time to speak to me. I can imagine that, Thami, this is quite a difficult thing to do. Tell us about that morning that you dropped off Yamihle.
Yes.
And later then received a call that there are problems. Just talk us through that morning.
That day, it was a very devastating day. I normally drop off the child around 8 o'clock. Then on my immediate arrival at the creche, I dropped the child on the 21st of January 2026. So what happened is that I received a call after 1 hour, 30 minutes, demanding me to get back to the creche. When I asked the principal, why is that? The principal said that, tell me, the child is very hot. The temperature is high, and he's not breathing. And it puzzled me. How so? Because the child was just normal. On my immediate arrival at the scene, as a paramedic by profession, I saw that the child is pale, the mouth was purple, the tongue was purple. I checked the pulse, there was no pulse. I took the child to Lulengoi Clinic. They tried by all means, the doctors, nurses, to resuscitate the child. But unfortunately, after 40 minutes, there was no positive plan. The child was gone. When I asked the principal said that I just went to ShopRite. I handed over the child to the teacher. We don't know actually what happened.
So you drop Yamihle off, an hour and a half later you get this devastating call, and subsequently the principal tells you that she was actually not on the premises when Yamihle fell ill because she was running errands.
Yes.
And at the hospital, then did they have any kind of indication of what may have happened to Yamihle?
In actual fact, the child was dead already. Just that I had that hope that maybe doctors might have a plan of waking up the child. You know, if such kind of incidences, they occur, it's like your degree of reasoning is being compromised. So I was just hoping for the better, all to find that the child was already gone. Yes.
So you're saying that by the time you fetched Yamihle from the creche, he was gone?
Yes.
Have you done a post-mortem?
Yes, I did.
And what were the results?
It referred to toxicology. And I asked the doctor briefly, what does that have to do? They said it's got something to do with the food poisoning. Yes. But we're still waiting for the full report to arrive at any time. I don't know.
All right. I want to bring you in, Tshepo, because subsequent to this incident, what we have found out is that the creche, the ECD center, was not registered. It was an unregistered facility. How difficult is it for these facilities to get registered?
Yeah, it has been one of the ongoing challenges of the early childhood development sector. And the people that are affected are the young children and families. And at the time, me being here today can put a face to the tragedy that is happening. And today we're talking about Yamihle. But just last year, I was here and we were talking about the fire that had taken place in Mayfair, south of Johannesburg, where 4 children had died there, Nadia, Rihanna, Patience, and Precious, who were between the ages of 2 and 4. Before that, there was Ukhanya Mahete, who was also in Bedford View, died in an ECD center. We are sitting here with one case But what I want to make clear is that many children are in danger. And that number is scary because they call these centers illegal when something has happened. But what we see in the last census that was done of the ECD sector in South Africa, we found that 60% of the centers in early childhood development centers in South Africa were unregistered. Only 40% of the centers are registered, which means that most of the young children who are going to ECD centers are in centers that are not meeting the safety requirements that are required for the norms and standards. And it has been historically difficult to get registered. However, we saw a big move in the Department of Basic Education last year responding to this challenge when they introduced the Banapili mass registration, which has broken up the registration process into 3 stages: bronze, silver, and gold. Whereas before it was this high bar that everyone had to meet, and includes many things like infrastructure, renovations, rezoning, and things of that nature. Right now with the bronze, silver, and gold, it makes it relatively easier to register. But I put a prefix in that to say this is just something put in place. Without the proper support given to the centers to go through that registration process, it really means nothing but the piece of paper it is written on. So one of the major challenges that we're facing right now is that centers are getting stuck at bronze and not being able to go to silver. And these are not full registration, they're partial registrations. And because local government specifically is unable to do the work that they need to do to unblock the barriers to registration. These include things like infrastructure support, basic services, rezoning, and land use options. And it's all good and well for national government to say, we're going to make it easier for you to register. But if local government is not supporting that registration process, we're going to see more cases like this because centers will continue to be unregistered.
Tshepo, in this case, we see that the principal had left to run an errand to go to the store. What are the specific regulations in terms of teacher-to-child ratios in ECDs?
Yes. These are still norms and standards that are being clarified within the ECD sector. And what we're finding is that it's not getting to the practitioners as to what ought to be happening. So there's a breakup of communication between what is required and what the centers know. You might know that we are dealing with a historically informal sector. When early childhood development was under the Department of Social Development, there was much oversight around registration of centers, even qualification of ECD practitioners. And that is all that is happening right now. But while that is happening, the children are still at the centers. So we need a lot more engagement around how the Department of Basic Education engages with ECD practitioners. And one of the key ways of doing that is to recognize early childhood development forums where they can engage at community level to educate the ECD sector around what is required. And also a big gap is around qualification and practitioners being adequately qualified to be doing the work. So these are major gaps that we need to address if we're going to recognize the Department of Education's goal to get universal access by 2030.
Thami, Tshepo raises, concerns around how informal the sector is. Tell us about how you found this particular center for Yamihle, and what were the considerations when you decided that he's ready to go to a creche?
The first challenge that we had, we as the family, me and my wife, is that we didn't have anyone to look after the child. And the child was 2 months, 3 full weeks. So we tried to go to the relevant creches around the centers, all to find that they didn't accept him due to he was underage. It's what they said. So on that day at Joy in Dabulo daycare, it's where they said no, there will be. The principal actually declared that I'll take the son as my own son. As a result, I'm having a bed in my office and the chair, whereby I'll be monitoring him on a daily basis. So what we do is we don't know actually how to check the creches in terms of with the department, whether is it accredited or registered under the database of education. It came as a surprise that the creche was not registered with the department.
And so this is a material example, right, Tshepo, of parents firstly not knowing that they can check, that they should be checking if these daycare centers that they entrust with their children are properly regulated. We did try to get hold of the Department of Basic Education, and they have not responded to us, which unfortunately, because they should have been here to account then for this particular incident. But talk to us then about the kind of engagement that happens between the department and members of the community to inform them and educate them about the necessity of ensuring that these daycare centers that they take their children to are registered.
Yeah. Where I would like to start off in that answering that question is that communities also, we have to learn more about early childhood development and the importance of that phase. So when we talk about early childhood development, we're actually talking about a period between conception and 6 years old. And wherever the child is within that period of time, they're going through rapid development. That is early childhood development. One of the challenges that we face is that there is very little programs that are looking at the child within that period of time. At that time, he had a real problem where his wife and him had to go back to work, but then the child is too young, because most centers most programs rather, in our communities cater from 3 to 5, which was the part of the challenge that he was facing, that there was no space for that. So one of the things that we ought to do is recognize the different programs that are needed that should be recognized, like day mothers, home-based centers, and these are more attuned to younger children rather than a center-based one. So one of the key things that Real Reform for Early Childhood Development, which is an advocacy movement that I'm part of, has been advocating for, is clearer recognition of different types of programs that cater for different needs within the early childhood development phase. And this, mind you, includes the time of pregnancy. What is being done to support the development of the child in that period of time? So we, as communities, take responsibility around getting familiar with that important time. But I don't want to put that all on communities, because the government also ought to do that support. So we need a lot more engagement at the community level. We need to host ECD imbizos where we're doing education. Because what has happened is that since the migration shift of ECD from DSD to DBE, DB has done a lot of work in educating themselves around early childhood development, but they have not done a lot of work in educating the community about what does this shift mean in terms of ECD being a strategic priority for the state. Another thing is that the President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, spoke at the SONA around the importance of early childhood development. However, it does not help us when the President speaks about it, but then the department is not doing anything and local government is not doing anything. So if the President is really serious about getting universal access, we need to start engaging local government and the DBE to work together around making ECD a lived reality for the community, so that men and families like Thami can see the effect of ECD being prioritized, not just hear it in speeches.
I mean, that is a very big gap then from having the knowledge to ensuring that it trickles down to the ground. Thami, there's a bit of a dispute between yourselves as well as Joy in Jabulo Daycare with regards to whether Yamihle had consumed this food that was contaminated prior to arriving to the daycare center or while he was at the daycare center. Tell us about, had he eaten before going there, and what's your understanding of the situation?
Under normal circumstances, what do? I used to feed the child the milk. It's breastfeeding and the Lactacon. I used to give him Lactacon. But the surprising part is that at the first time we dropped Yamihle, the principal fed him porridge without our consent. So there are highly chances that the child ate something before that 9:30 call, which was poisonous.
I mean, Yamihle was 2 months old,
2
right?
months, 3 full weeks.
And he was on breast milk at home. He was only on breast milk and Lactagon.
Yes.
So you had not, as a family, introduced him yet to solids.
No, it's only the principal who introduced the child to solids without our consent.
Without
from
your
the first
consent.
day.
And how did you find this out?
It was very weak. I've never thought that the child who's less than 3 full months can eat anything.
Yeah.
It was strange.
Yeah. Tshepo, I mean, these are, you know, these loopholes that you speak about, you know, from the time of conceiving to, what you said, 6 months or to 6 years,
6
in
years,
fact,
that's early child
that the
development.
ECDs have to make provision for and understand each phase and you know, the needs and requirements for each growth phase.
Yes.
This also speaks to just a lack of understanding from the teachers, from those who own daycare centers about the needs of children.
Yes, it's about understanding what program fits what age group. Like I said, most of the programs that we have are from 3 to 5. But what are the programs that are within communities that are catering to those younger than that? But specifically to Thami's situation is that we're seeing a consequence of a nutrition understanding and gap within the support for early nutrition in that phase. So one of the things that we have been advocating for is also a nutrition program that supports early nutrition at ECD programs. The same way the Department of Basic Education provides nutrition for 9 million children in primary schools and high schools across the country. None of that is happening at centers. You know, the shocking reality is that the subsidy going to centers right now is 24 Rand per child per day. And of that 24 Rand, only 40% of it, which accounts to 9 Rand, is ring-fenced for nutrition. So practitioners are expected to give an adequate, nutritious meal for 9 Rand per child per day. And that is 2 meals and a snack. That is grossly inadequate. And that is only getting to centers that are registered fully and are getting the subsidy. And like I said, 60% are not registered. So that means 60% of the centers are not even getting those peanuts that is the subsidy that is meant to support nutrition.
I mean, it speaks also to just the cost factor, right? Thami, you and your wife had recently moved to Soweto.
Yes.
And prior to this incident, and of course you both had to go back to work. How big a part in considering which daycare to take Yamihle to was influenced by costs? And you know, just looking around you, how many families, would you say there's a big chunk of families in the community that are making decisions on where to take their children to based on the cost of the daycares?
Yes, but it was determined by the acceptance as well. It was determined by the acceptance as well in terms of affordability. And that was the nearest. Hence, we're not working around. The wife is working in Glen Vista, so it's quite a distance. So we preferred that one according to the way we easily got the space. Hence, it was January.
How's your wife doing very quickly?
She's not good. She's not good at all. As a result, she's not even here.
Yeah. We really do commiserate with you and your family, and we hope that answers that you seek, you will find. Tshepo, thank you very much for your insights. Thank you both for your time.